Hey loves, it's your girl Mariah Sincere, and I am back with another bomb live. And boy, have I got a show for you today. I don't know if I have been live since I've been here in Peru, but for those of y'all who don't know or didn't know, I'm in Peru right now. Peru for the rest of us gringos. Yeah, so I'm in Peru. I'll be here for a few months. I've already been here a couple of weeks. Follow me on the Passport Sis at TikTok. If you are interested in my travels here in Peru, it is a very beautiful place. So, yes, I'm giving y'all US news live from Peru. For those of y'all who don't know who I am, if you're new to my channel, I am a political and social commentator who also happens to live abroad. I don't live in the United States. I travel, and my base is in Colombia. So I'll be back in Colombia in January. With that said, the great thing about me being able to travel abroad is that it gives me like a perspective. I get to see things through a lens that I feel like I wouldn't have otherwise gotten to see them had I had stayed in the United States. For example, I didn't know until I left the United States that in certain countries, I'm trying not to say no names, in certain countries, it is well known that people would sell their children to the cartel to go up through the southern border. I would not have known that. So, like all of that virtue signaling that the liberals do about we need to have open borders, it wasn't until I came down here that I learned that that empathy of ours was being played on by bad guys who use the southern border to for nefarious purposes, very nefarious purposes. But anyway, we got a show today. I'm going to be reacting to some news given by RJ Talks today about Donald Trump waging war on the cartels. I think it's safe to say that we are officially at war with the cartels. Like, no, Congress hasn't declared it, but Trump is not playing with it. He's like, y'all are going to keep y'all people out of the country. Y'all are going to keep these drugs out of the country. Y'all are not going to be doing all that smegs trafficking. And you know, what's so interesting to me is all of a sudden there's this renewed, I don't even want to say renewed, it's brand new found interest on the side of the liberals in the Epstein files. The liberals keep on about the Epstein files, the Epstein files, the Epstein files. And though I think the Epstein files are important, and I feel like anybody who was harming children needs to be prosecuted, let's be clear, the liberals weren't concerned about it. And the liberals are never concerned about child trafficking. When we bring up the fact that it's happening by the thousands across the southern border, or was happening, because all that's shut down now. Every single time I have talked to a liberal and I have made that point, they act like they didn't even hear what I said. They don't even acknowledge it. They just skip right over it and continue on with their talking points. But all of a sudden it's, I want to see the Epstein files. Forget the missing children that they still haven't found, that were basically shipped en masse across the southern border for the purposes of trafficking. But anyways, I digress. So let's get into it. So first, I'm going to talk about the war that is being waged on the cartels by Donald Trump. So we're going to go to RJ Talks channel, and then I'm going to talk about the potential for Donald Trump to basically do a federal takeover of Chicago. What's going on? Is it necessary? Is it even legal? Let's talk about it. With that said, if you're just now coming in, please hit the like button. Okay, give me 1 second. Here we go. I'm going to share my screen. So this is on RJ Talks channel. It's titled U.S. Air Force Conducts First Airstrikes on Cartel Targets.
It is Tuesday, September 2nd, and the U.S. military striking cartel targets from Venezuela for the first time. All of this just breaking. President Trump saying these targets were from Venezuela.
When you come out and when you leave the room, you'll see that we just, over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat. And you'll be seeing that and you'll be reading about that. It just happened moments ago. And our great general, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who's been so incredible, including what took place in Iran, knocking out potential nuclear power for a long time to come. I think within a month they would have had it. We didn't do what we did. But he gave us a little bit of a briefing, and you'll see. And there's more where that came from. We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in for a long time. And we just, these came out of Venezuela and coming out very heavily from Venezuela. A lot of things are coming out of Venezuela. So we took it out, and you'll get to see that after this meeting is over.
Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Raisin Kane, greenlighting the first airstrike on a Venezuelan drug cartel this morning, striking a drug vessel sent from Venezuela. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also confirming the U.S. military conducted a lethal strike, he says, against this Venezuelan drug vessel, that the ship departed from Venezuela before being blown out of the sea, posting on X just moments ago that the vessel was being operated by a designated narco-terror organization, and saying this is the reason the U.S. has boosted its wartime force in the waters off Venezuela to combat these threats, they said, from the drug cartels. And look, this coming.
Let me say this, because there are a lot of people who are claiming that this is all over the oil that's in Venezuela. And I'm not going to dismiss that. I'm not going to say that the oil doesn't necessarily play a factor. But with that said, I can't stand when I hear people act like the drug problem in the United States is not a real problem. Or I can't stand it when I hear people act like we should just let a free flow of drugs come across the southern border. Even to me, the idea of like legalizing drugs, to me, that is a loser mentality. There are people who have this mentality, well, people are going to do drugs anyway, so we might as well just legalize all forms of drugs. But let's keep in mind, there are a large number of people who the only reason why they don't do drugs is because it's illegal. That's the only thing stopping them. They're scared to go to jail. Jail, regardless of what y'all may think, is a great deterrent for many people. For example, there are plenty of times where people get on my nerves and I think about giving them a nice backhand. I keep my hands to myself because I understand that I am not built for jail. Shout out to the LGBTQ community, but I do not want to have to fight the ladies up off of me in jail. I do not want to be in there fighting for my life. I like lip gloss. Okay. I like pretty makeup. I like all of that, and I'm bougie about what I eat. So I can't eat any prison slop. So when people make me mad, I think about jail and I just remain calm. Okay. So with that said, jail is a great deterrent from many people trying substances that they would otherwise be trying if they had easier access to it. And for us to try to pretend, the narrative for so long has been the people that are doing them are going to be the same people that are doing them when they're legal, and other people are not going to try it. Use your common sense with that. To me, that's just a common sense thing. It's kind of like if you put candy, if you have a whole bunch of candy and sweet stuff in your house and it's not easily accessible to you, you're going to be more likely to eat all the candy and sweet stuff and snacks in your house if it's in your refrigerator versus if it's harder to access. So you have to think about at least illicit substances the same way. And I feel like taking the stance that we should just legalize this all, or at the very least, just allow a free flow of it into our country, that's already coming from a loser mindset and loser perspective. And it's not good for society. Honestly, guys, if you go to societies, which I have been, where mass illicit substance abuse is the norm, people, for example, I've been in a country before where it's nothing for people to do see and stuff like that. Okay, what other type of behavior do you think comes with that? A lot of the times, that's when you get an increase in behaviors like sexual deviance. That's when you get a rise in unemployment. That is when you get a rise in things like just people doing things they wouldn't otherwise do had they not been under the influence of an illicit substances. So that's where you get the moral degradation of a society. And I feel like as Americans, part of the reason why we've been able to acquire the amount of wealth that we have and keep us, we're like a sober-minded nation for the most part. Yes, there are people in our country that do indulge in illicit substances, and I feel like it's getting worse the more that we promote these kind of lifestyles. But for the most part, you know, America has been a hard-working society that's been very progressive and future oriented. And I feel like once you start engaging in these, you make these illicit substances normal over a massive population, people become lazy. They start striving for less, they become complacent. And I'm with Donald Trump, and he doesn't do any type of illicit substances. He's always talked about how he's against them. He doesn't drink. And like you don't get to a place that somebody like Donald Trump gets to, and you are constantly doing illicit substances. Now, I know there are some exceptions to the rule, but the majority of people, when they're smoking all the time and drinking all the time and popping Percocets and doing all these pills, they become lazy and complacent in life, you know. And not just that, the overdoses, the fentanyl overdoses are over control. So to act like we should just allow this to free flow across our border, that's already a defeatist mindset. And I would argue it's very anti-American. You know, the most important thing is our children. At the very least, our children don't need to be able to have access to these substances. Okay, let's continue.
After President Trump authorized kinetic force a few weeks ago on cartel positions, on assets, and key personnel, signing that secret directive 2 weeks ago. This is a big deal. The first time we've done so, that the U.S. has used military action, kinetic action on drug interdiction since 1989. Under President Bush Sr. was the last time we did this, when he ordered the invasion of Panama to arrest Manuel Noriega. For 35 years, the cartels have been allowed to just fester, expand. Not anymore. There's a new sheriff in town, and it's costing them billions. The cartels, costing the cartels billions of dollars in revenues. Watch.
There was a day.
What is your mission on Earth based on your...
Okay, real quick. I'm sorry. I didn't see that y'all were in here. I wasn't looking at my comments. Hey, Sultry. Good to see you. What's up, Jamal? Got my regulars in here. 1 second, y'all. Got to say hi to my people. Thank y'all. Hi, Caramel Coated Cutie. It's been a minute. Hi, Kevin. Trump isn't going to do anything illegal. No, I don't think I know he's probably not going to do anything illegal, or he's not going to do anything that he can't fight in court. I think they've been planning on this for a long time. Y'all got to understand, Trump and them have been planning what he's going to do way before he even got in office. So, of course, these are going to be legal battles because anybody can bring a lawsuit, right? But I don't think that he is doing anything that he doesn't know that he can't win in court. What's up, Will's Tumbling? Good to see you. Venezuela has low-grade oil. That is like tar. The Biden administration was buying oil from them. Wow. But why? I want to know why. Because it's been rumored that we have politicians in the back pockets of these narco traffickers. And when you think about what happened during the Biden administration, to me, that's the only thing that makes sense. For you to come in office and the first thing that you do is reverse all of Donald Trump's executive orders at the border. You basically open it. You allow a free flow for 4 years, knowing that there are children, because they know this. They know this better than the average American citizen. They know that there are children being trafficked across the borders. They know that the cartels are trafficking illicit substances across the borders. So for them to allow all that, yes, you cannot tell me that some of these politicians have not been compromised by the cartels. And if you think that the cartels don't have that kind of reach, you are sadly mistaken. Even in a lot of major cities in the southern states or the border states, Yes, the cartel has major pull with the city councils and things of that nature. I remember in my city, there was a lawyer trying to prosecute some cartel members, and they were murked. Okay, out of there. This was in Dallas. They were out of there. The cartels got to them. Nobody went to jail for it. This is what the white man wants to get it into our community so we can be labeled criminals. Ain't no labels. I'm going to show y'all these videos of Chicago. If I lived in Chicago, we're going to talk about that later. But if I lived in Chicago, I would be begging for, call them the white man, the police, what you want to. If I'm living in Chicago and I have a child, especially like if I'm living in Chicago and I have my daughter and I have to worry about these YNs sliding on their ops, let's not pretend like this isn't something they don't glorify. Yeah, y'all come get them. Come get them. Matter of fact, I'm snitching. I'm telling everything. What's up, D Mally? What's up? Yeah, they need to come on, because we're not able to do it. We can't do anything about them, so might as well bring the police in. Yep, come get them.
Your starseed type.
You know, where we had, 2,700 apprehensions, or 2,300 people on the ground in one area and another area. If you extrapolate out that data, we're really costing them over $1 billion, in their business model.
Jonathan Fahey is a former acting ICE director and former federal prosecutor, joins me now. Simply put, Jonathan, it looks like after years and years of just talk, the United States under the Trump administration is turning the screws on those who, one, try to poison us, but two, those who try to human traffic across our borders.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro warning over the weekend he's more than prepared, he says, to deal with the threats from the United States, responding by deploying 15,000 troops of his own along Venezuela's coast and their border region, specifically Colombia, saying over the weekend his military is ready for whatever Trump's planning, that they've long speculated.
It's the delusion for me. And let me tell you something. A lot of Democrats have been bashing Trump because he has been, I guess you could say, cozying up with Vladimir Putin. And he, in the process of these deals, they are making negotiations and the United States is making concessions. And I think that's in our best interest. Honestly and truly, I wouldn't be against Vladimir Putin maintaining all the land that he's taken from the Ukraine. What the Ukraine wants is they want us to have this kind of deal where they are not officially in NATO, but they get NATO protections. And Vladimir Putin is like, I'm not going for that. That's the same thing. So Vladimir Putin wants to keep all the land that he's taken that thus far. I believe Donald Trump is going to let him have all the land he's taken thus far because it's in our best interest. I'm going to tie it in with this. To me, the policy should be, because Russia is a superpower and they need to be respected the same way that we are respected, that they stay on their side of the world and we stay on ours. Why is that important? Well, whenever we are beefing and getting into it, what happens is we stick our nose in their business and then they stick our nose in ours. I'm recalling the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? And Russia has had positive ties with Venezuela. So if we can get them to back off of our side of the world, who is going to be there to protect Venezuela? Because honestly and truly, I don't care how many troops he has. No technology that they have can go against the might of the United States military. So this is a situation where Donald Trump is playing chess. He's thinking long term. And he's doing what he needs to do so that we can have our way on our side of the hemisphere.
U.S. would use naval forces off their coast as a distraction while invading from Colombia. Maduro delivering this warning to the United States.
Donald Trump, usted tiene que cuidarse porque Marco Rubio quiere manchar sus manos de sangre, con sangre suramericana, caribeña, con sangre venezolana. Lo quieren llevar a un baño de sangre y que su apellido, Trump, se manche de sangre por los siglos de los siglos. Si Venezuela fuera agredida, pasaría inmediatamente al periodo de lucha armada en defensa del territorio nacional y de la historia y del pueblo de Venezuela. Y declararíamos constitucionalmente.
Sir, y'all economy is in shambles. Can you even afford a war? Can you even afford a war? And that is why it is in our best interest to stop funding the Ukraine war. It is in our best interest. If Donald Trump is going to wage this war on our hemisphere, it is in our best interest to get out of Ukraine and stop funding them as quickly as possible. Okay. Jamal says Russia is, as Obama said, a regional power. Russia and China will get closer to Venezuela. I don't think so. Right. And this is why I don't think so. Again, I feel like Donald Trump is playing chess, not checkers. I feel like if this kind of situation was taking place under a different administration, perhaps what you are saying would be true. But with that said, I think we're going to pull out of Ukraine. I think that's inevitable. We're going to pull out of Ukraine. The situation with Taiwan and China, that would be like the major reason why we would even get into an armed conflict with Taiwan. What Donald Trump is doing is he's essentially thinking long term and pulling United States interest out of Taiwan. So if we manufacture those chips in the United States, which that is something that he has been working on, then it will not matter to us whether or not China does or does not invade Taiwan, because they'll be of absolutely no economic interest to us. So what I'm saying is we have to let it play out. What the Venezuelans are in no position to go to war with the United States. Absolutely not. That's kind of like the people who were saying that the Ukrainians could win a war against Russia, and like their losses have been heavily underreported. Ukraine will never win a war against Russia. It's absolutely ridiculous. Even with our help, they're losing. You really think the other leaders are not better thinkers than Trump? No, that's not what I said. What I said is he's working with them. So it's not about whether or not he's better leaders. It's about, first of all, Donald Trump is a very strategic person. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. The whole Democratic establishment tried to take this man down for years, and he still came out on top. So whether or not you do or do not like Trump, you have to give credit where credit is due. That is not a dummy. That is not a dummy by any means. And the relationships that he's been able to establish with Russia that was pretty much non-existent when Joe Biden was in office, you have to give him credit for that. You know, he basically got Vladimir Putin to say, which is the truth. I said this even before Donald Trump won re-election, is that he wouldn't even went to war with the Ukraine had Donald Trump still been in office, because Donald Trump understood we are not talking to y'all about joining NATO. That is stupid. So we're not going to act like Donald Trump is an unintelligent man who doesn't know how to play his cards right. He is. Whether or not the other leaders are more intelligent than him matters not. He knows how to play his cards. He knows how to give concessions where concessions need to be made. So I can only speak for what I have seen thus far. And as far as with Venezuela, I don't think Russia will be a problem at all. I don't know about China. I don't think we'll have any problems out of Russia.
A la República en armas. Lucha armada y República en armas. De norte a sur, de este a oeste, para garantizar la paz, la soberanía y el desarrollo del país en cualquier circunstancia que nos toque.
Yet Trump's now sealed the southern border.
He wants to guarantee the peace of the country and the progress of the country. The problem is Maduro has tried to build progress in his country off of narco trafficking. Let's be clear. A lot of the ways that they were making their money is through sending criminals. They emptied out their prisons. This is true. Everybody in South America knows it. It's not some Republican conspiracy. They emptied out their prisons and they sent their criminals up through the southern border. Am I saying that every Venezuelan that came across the southern border was a criminal? Absolutely not. I'm saying a lot of the Venezuelans that came across as gang members or criminals, or came across exploiting their own people. Let's be very clear about this. Not just that, He has been accused of being a narco president and heading his own cartel that is operating in Mexico. So all of this is narco trafficking money. There's something else that I want to talk about, but because of where I'm based in, I can't talk about everything I need to talk about here. But let's be clear, make no mistake, this is a narco president. And he wants to enrich himself, not his people, himself, and other narco traffickers that are his cronies off of the backs of the American people and the US dollar. It was to the point where you couldn't even send remittances into Venezuela without the Venezuelan government taking a percentage off of it. So this man has been making money off of the unaliving, suffering, and misery of the American people for a very long time. So it is absolutely in our best interest to wage war against him, in my opinion.
Border, forcing these cartels to switch to sea, transporting their product by boat or ship. And already in the last week, the U.S. Coast Guard has seized multiple cartel ships, seizing huge quantities of drugs and weapons.
Hold on. What are you talking about, Jamal? What are you talking about? Chavez and Maduro do care about the people. Do you know that the average monthly salary in Venezuela is less than $1 US? You know, we want to talk about the amount of illegal immigrants that were coming across the southern border from Venezuela to the United States. But make no mistake, the brunt of that illegal immigration and the destabilization of that area has affected South Americans, okay? Approximately 2.8 million Venezuelans currently reside in Colombia, okay? I've been in Colombia for an entire year. Do you think the Colombians are happy about that? No, it destabilizes their region. It causes an increase in crime. All of those low wage, the unemployment in Colombia, I was looking at Colombian news today, and they were celebrating the fact that the unemployment rate is 8.8%. And I'm like, what? That's giving recession level unemployment. And they were like, that's the lowest it's been since 2001. So when you have a lot of these Venezuelans having to come over, well, guess what? Now Colombians have to compete for jobs, especially Colombians who would otherwise be working those low wage jobs. And this is not a knock on Venezuelans. I met plenty of very nice, kind Venezuelans. And like, I'm grateful they have an opportunity to make an income for themselves, but it's causing a lot of destabilization in this region. Peru, around 1.66 million Venezuelans reside in Peru. In the United States, we have 1 million. Brazil, 630,000 Venezuelans. So how does Maduro and how does Chavez care about their people when their people have to flee their country? They can't live in their country anymore. I meet so many Venezuelans who were like, I wish I could return home, but I can't while Maduro is in office. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like if you are a liberal in the United States, or you are some type of radical or socialist or communist or whatever the case may be, we have the luxury of speaking on these things. We have the luxury of glorifying these type of figureheads because we don't have to deal with the consequences. We can write a check that essentially our ass cannot cash. His people, the Venezuelans, their ass is cashing that check. Period. And the results are mass destabilization and mass migration and mass poverty and suffering. They literally will be in the street burning their currency because it's worth nothing. Venezuela is under U.S. embargoes, just like Cuba. They are cut out of international markets. Okay, again, people want to blame the United States for everything. You can't blame the United States for everything. Again, you have a leader who is trafficking humans and drugs across our border. How are we expected to have a good relationship with these people? Are we supposed to just say, hey, you're disrespecting us? we are going to allow you to flourish without sanctions. That's not how this goes. See, everybody wants to talk mess about the United States, but at the same time wants to take from the United States. There are other countries in Latin America who have who have narco traffickers, but know how to be low key, don't disrespect us, and have a great relationship with the United States, who are not dealing with U.S. embargoes and have flourishing economies. Furthermore, if you talk to Venezuelan people that have had to flee the country, they don't blame the United States. I feel like that's something that we mostly do in the United States. They blame Maduro. They're not, you know what they tell me? They say, when are they going to take Maduro out? When is the United States going to invade Venezuela? They are begging for us to invade Venezuela. They are begging for us to take out Maduro. I was even talking to a Colombian, and he was kind of, throwing his shots at the United States, but then within that same conversation, he was talking about the illegal immigration by Venezuelans. And he was like, well, when is the United States going to do something about it? So it's like the same people that talk mess about the United States beg us to intervene when it's in their best interest. Okay, guys, if y'all are just now coming
now this morning,
like button,
bombing one of these ships to Kingdom Come, this is without question crushing their business. And the dirty secret, though, is it's not just the cartels that are going to be suffering from this. It's the people in power in some of these Latin American countries. The State Department declaring Maduro a narco-terrorist. Also in Mexico, the cartels, they've infested the Mexican government. Even the president of Mexico herself, her political party rather, the Moreno party, is allegedly in business with the cartels. And you know what happens when you mess with people's money, right? They strike back. Now, the interesting thing about this is how the Trump administration is targeting Venezuela first. Everyone knows if you want to go after the drug cartels, you do so in Colombia and Mexico. Both of them, though, allies with the United States. Venezuela, however, not our ally. In fact, our enemy. Nicolas Maduro, a pure socialist leader, the successor to Hugo Chavez, and is allied with Russia, China, and Iran. Also, Venezuela happens to be one of the most strategically important countries in our hemisphere. Huge oil resources and rare earth minerals located in Venezuela. General Laura Richardson of
Super intensive shrimp farming faces production inefficiencies.
Southcom, the commander of Southcom, openly explaining this to the Atlantic Council, why she says it's critical the U.S. obtains operational control over Venezuela. You can't make this up. Watch.
If I talk to my number two adversary in the region, Russia, I mean, I've got, of course, the countries, Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua with Russia relationships. But why this region matters, with all of its rich resources and rare earth elements. You've got the lithium triangle, which is needed for technology today. 60% of the world's lithium is in the lithium triangle: Argentina, Bolivia, Chile. You just have the largest oil reserves, light sweet crude, discovered off of Guyana over a year ago. You have...
Let me say this too, because again, a lot of people like to talk shit about the United States, but I've said this before. I'll say it again. These countries have been in existence, or they've been at the very least under colonial rule, and have been being developed since before the United States was even a thought. A lot of these countries have had settlements since the late 1400s and 1500s. They've been more powerful. They've been ruled by more powerful empires and people. When the United States was 13 states and small colonies, these were wholly developed civilizations by Europeans. So let me say this. If you got a head start on the United States and you are upset because the United States surpassed you, and you had at least 100 to 200 years of development on the United States, Whose fault is that? And when you go to a lot of these countries, again, I'm in South America, very beautiful. I love it here. It's very beautiful. Culturally, I love it. But there are some things that you wouldn't understand unless you lived here that allow you to understand, I see why the United States is ahead of you. I understand completely. A lot of the leadership in these countries have sold their people out because there's no reason why, as resource rich as Venezuela is, that they should not be a world power. A lot of these countries, for example, we can even talk about Argentina. Before Argentina was more of a world power than us before we became a world power. Their countries made choices way before we decided to even interfere in their countries. Their countries and their leadership made choices, and we rose to power and we surpassed them. And it is what it is. If you talk to a lot of locals or people from these countries, they will tell you about the policies where the very wealthy have sold their people out to large corporations or to other countries. So whose fault is that? Honestly and truly, whose fault is it? That's what I said. I said, women, stop it. They were ruled over. Spain and Portugal and Britain don't do. That's exactly. Didn't I say they were colonized? So they were colonized. The United States was colonized. We were colonized by Britain. We fought for our independence, just like them. A lot of same thing, same history. Ours just came later. The United States was colonized by Great Britain. The people over here fought for their independence. And the leadership of our country made decisions, whether you agree with them or not, made decisions that eventually led to the United States being the greatest superpower in the world. It just is what it is. And surpassing other nations in our hemisphere that initially had more wealth than us. The Americas are very resource rich. They're abundantly rich. So we have that same history of colonization as they do. So what are we talking about here? Decisions. The decisions that the leadership in these countries made all the difference. And as I said before, there's always going to be somebody more powerful than you. So people cannot be upset that their leadership made decisions that put them in the position that they are today, to where the United States has the most power on the hemisphere. And we're never going to live in a world where people share power equally and respect each other and don't try to take each other's resource. That is a childish way of thinking. It's never in the history of humanity happened, and it's not going to happen. Let's continue.
Venezuela's resources as well, with oil, copper, gold. We have the Amazon, lungs of the world. We have 31% of the world's fresh water in this region too. I mean, it's just off the charts. We have a lot to do. This region matters. It has a lot to do with national security, and we need to step up our game.
So is this really about eradicating the drug cartel?
And we could say, like, Jamal, I see you're like, oh, she's greedy. Look at her talking about those people's resources. Do y'all not understand? This is the thing. Again, we can say this with privilege over here. We can say it. We can talk bad about our country, and we can talk bad about the people that go get the resources. And I believe in self-determination. In a perfect world, every country would cooperate with each other. We would politely ask for resources. We wouldn't snatch resources. Everybody would know what to do with their resources that would be to the best benefit of their people. But like, it's so easy to say that when you live in countries and nations where the people who have went and taken resources have made life so comfortable for you that you don't really have to experience a real bottom. Go to a lot of these countries where they mismanage the resources, or they have not figured out a way. For example, we have poor people in the United States, no doubt, but the bottom in a lot of these other countries falls way lower than the bottom of the United States. At the very least, most people in the United States are going to have access to a phone. They're going to have access to hot water and electricity most of the time, right? You go to a lot of these other places and they don't even have access to clean running water as like a minimum, just running water in the house. So again, it's easy to criticize the leadership of our countries when we benefited from it. We have. And you don't realize the benefit until you go see how other people are living, and you're like, y'all, your government just allows people to like live this way.
I don't know. It seems like it might be a kill two birds with one stone approach. Use this as moral justification for using kinetic force in Venezuela, which creates insecurity in the country, allowing CIA to more easily carry out regime change, something you'd think Tulsi Gabbard would be opposed to. Let me know what you think about this. We've been reporting on this for a week now, that we would see.
This is what I would like to see happen. Sorry, y'all please hit the like button. It helps people know that I'm on live. This is what I would like to see happen in that region. I would like to see a regime change. If the United States, if our government is hell-bent on getting access to those resources, you got to think about it like this. The people who are in power right now are not doing right by those resources. Do y'all understand? They're choosing to make most of their money off of narco trafficking and crime. So whoever has been in power and been in charge of those resources, for whatever reasons, they have not figured out a way to adequately utilize their resources to the best of their ability in a way that would benefit the Venezuelan people. If the United States says we're going to go in and we are going to regime change and we are going to take advantage of these resources, I would like to see them do it in a way that would benefit the everyday Venezuelan, because you're going to need people to mine these factories. You're going to need people to process it. You're going to need people to do shipping. So if the situation could change to where the average Venezuelan would at least have access to a job to where they'd be making more than $1 as their average salary, that would be a win for the Venezuelan people, whether you like it or not. And this is the reason why a lot of Venezuelans are actually calling for a U.S. invasion of Venezuela. They are actually calling for regime change. They're happy. They're excited. I have yet to see a Venezuelan not be happy about this. So this is what I would like to see. I would like to see, if we are going to go in and do this, this needs to just benefit. At this point, them just being able to have access to hot water, 3 square meals a day, electricity, good transportation, being able to stay in their homes and not have to flee, them being able to return to an economy where they can get work, that would be a win for Venezuelans. And I know some of y'all might not see it like that. It's like, oh, the United States is evil, the United States is bad. But that is not how they see it. I promise you, it's not. Okay, so now I am going to go to the Cartier family's YouTube page. Give me a second. We are going to talk about crime going on in Chicago and some of the pushback.
My work is easy because I use ClickUp. Here's how I
that Donald Trump is getting for suggesting that, he wants to send federal troops into
keep my marketing campaigns on track. I start by creating a campaign timeline in Gantt view to map out every
Cartier family. For those of y'all who don't know these brothers, I think they're all family members. But this is a group of very young, educated, articulate, well-spoken Black men who are conservatives. I think they started off talking about music and popular culture, but now they're talking about politics. And there are a lot of people who are upset and calling them coons and names online because they are saying that they are here for this crackdown on crime. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is that Black people who don't engage in crime, a lot of Black people who don't engage in crime, nor do they support people who engage in crime, do have no incentive to support criminality, nor protect it. I've said it before and I say it again. The only people who got upset about the crime crackdown in DC are people who are criminals, engage in crime, who aren't out here living right, or the mothers that raised them. I have a Black son mothers, ma'am. Okay, if you raised your son right, he shouldn't be engaging in crime. And there are plenty of Black men. I know a lot of y'all make it seem like just on a day-to-day basis, just for having Black skin and walking out your door, the police are targeting you. But I've met plenty of Black men, and there are plenty of Black men who are on the internet who are like, no, I've actually never been treated bad by the police. Or if there was a misunderstanding, it got straightened out. Or I don't engage in crime, so that's not my life experience. I don't know why we take a small percentage of Black people and we have to wear their experience as our identity. I've said it before and I'll say it again. There are so many times where the police really should have taken me to jail and they did not. There were so many times where the police at the very least should have given me a ticket and they did not. The police did a lot of solid favors for me. I'll say that, but nobody talks about that. Y'all don't talk about the times where the police could have gave you a ticket but they let you off with a warning. You don't talk about that. It's always doom and gloom. The police are bad and they've always treated you horribly. Anyway, let's get
in Chicago. Everybody got to get down. Everybody got to get down because they shoot. Everybody down.
Man, chill out.
This is a football game? These kids are running.
Oh my God.
They shooting. We can't have no fun in Chicago, man. No fun, man.
Yeah, bro.
This is terrible. I would have thrown a goddamn flag. This y'all neighborhood.
This ain't y'all neighborhood.
This might be over with, but I gotta see what it's like.
Is that a
Gunshots in Chicago. Okay, look, here's the thing. We can talk about white on white crime, but like it's not glorified in white communities to just slide on the ops. What does that mean? It's on site. I'm beefing with you on the internet, so as soon as I see you, I'm shooting up the entire school function or I'm shooting up the entire sports function because I seen my ops, and I don't care if men, women, and children are there. And y'all can talk about like school shooters all day long, but that is a very rare small percentage. This type of stuff is going on every single day on the regular. And not only is it happening, it's glorified. It's glorified. It's sung about. It's condoned. It makes you more of a man if you do stuff like this.
football game?
Look how torn up that track is, man. So I just want you guys to look at the condition of that school. It's got a bunch of people in the community there trying to enjoy an event, and like, look at the condition.
You know why? Okay, so Jamal is saying, ironically, all the Black women I see oppose it, but the Black men support it. He's talking about the federalization of DC and perhaps Chicago. This is why. This is why. First of all, these women are raising these boys, a lot of them without a father. So they see their son in these criminals. Let me be very clear on what I'm saying. I'm not saying Black men are inherently criminals. What I'm saying is these mothers who coddle their sons and raise their son with absolutely no accountability and let their sons do whatever they want to do, they are a problem, and they are part of the reason why these women and their children cannot walk out safely in their community. And the problem is everybody thinks that their son is different. A woman can have a son who has caught 3 bodies, meaning they've unalived 3 people or 4 or 5 people, and that's her baby. She don't see him as a serial killer. These women favor their sons over their daughters. So when they hear that the police are going to be in the vicinity and they know they are raising a son who likes to walk outside in a ski mask and listen to that type of music and is doing God knows what when he's not at the house, the first thing they think about is, oh, he's going to come get my Black son. They don't think about, well, what if my daughter is asleep in the room and these people are having a shootout in the neighborhood and a stray bullet hits my child? They don't think about that. They only care about their sons. The reason why you don't see a lot of Black men opposing this is because, first of all, they have to deal with the consequences of this behavior the most, because they're more likely to get unalived by another man who looks like them, who is a menace to society. They're more likely to have a negative interaction that ends with one or both people leaving on a stretcher. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Men know other men. And that's why you have a lot of men who view this as a problem more than they view Black women who have, to me, empathy that goes against their best interest and the best interest of their children who are doing right or trying to do right. Guys, if you're just now coming in, please hit the like button.
Of this track. So if this was a safe community and all these members of the community felt safe and could put money into the community, I'm sure this place would be a lot nicer. But you have knuckleheads and Neanderthals shooting, making the community unsafe, where children got to run, everybody got to duck and cover at a freaking football game. Everybody suffers. The innocent people suffer, the community suffers, and everything else around it suffers. So when y'all talk about, oh, these communities are that with all this violence and poverty is toe up, you got to realize that cycle of violence is keeping y'all in poverty.
Chicago,
and everybody's affected.
Chicago.
And then here's the crazy thing. People will know this is going on and then think that businesses are supposed to invest into those communities. You couldn't pay me. You couldn't pay me as a business owner who maybe worked my butt off, made some smart investments, and I want to open a restaurant or I want to open some type of business and have employees. You could not pay me to put a business in that area. I would never invest into that area. Why? That's stupid. You're always going to have to worry about crime, looting, somebody getting upset at your employee and then unaliving your employee just because they got upset because they didn't make their food right. But then we blame white people. Oh, white people are taking the investment out of the community. Why should they stay and invest? At the end of the day, all money is green money. If it's profitable to be in a community like this and it's going to benefit a company or a business owner, they would be flocking there in droves. But it comes with more problems than what it's worth. And instead of addressing the issues that are causing people to stay away, that are causing a lack in investment or are causing people who were there to leave and divest, because let's be clear, businesses, even Walmart is leaving out of a lot of these communities and they're like, hell no, y'all steal too much. It's too much crimes in our locations. Let's be clear. They would still be there if people knew how to act. But we want to talk bad about the business owners and say that they need to be self-sacrificing and just stay and put up with the foolishness versus condemn the people in our own community. We want to act like it's not going on because it's a pride and an ego thing. And we have to be in constant, We have to constantly pretend that these things aren't going on or they're not happening. These gangs need to be forced to make agreements, and these black celebs need to get back. We need big planning. No, the gangs, they need to do the same thing that they're doing to the gangs, they need to do to the cartels. The same thing they're doing with the cartels, they need to do to the gangs. They don't even need to be in existence, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. They do more harm than good. It has not been beneficial at all for there to be gangs operating in minority communities. It only benefits the gang members and their leaders. And it doesn't even benefit the small footmen, the people at the very bottom of the gangs.
This is so crazy. Bro.
So over the weekend, guys, 35 people were shot. 5 people just died in Chicago over the weekend. And people say they don't see what they're saying, that they don't see the violence that's in Chicago. Look what this guy said on Fox today.
I was in Chicago, D.C. earlier this year. I'm in Atlanta right now, and I've not yet stepped in one single pool of blood. So I'm not sure what America and what...
Because the chances of that happening are highly unlikely, just in general. That's no matter where you're at. It's more likely, no matter where you are in the world, unless you step into a war zone, you're more likely to never see somebody get unalived in front of you or step into a pool of blood. That is not a good measure of whether or not the crime is out of control in Chicago. This is a ridiculous thing to say, in my opinion.
City Luke is referencing, and I'm not sure even when I'm in New York City what he's referencing.
Are you kidding?
And so with that being said,
wait a minute. Okay, so you haven't stepped. Whoa. So you haven't stepped in a pool of blood. Okay, I'll be honest with you. Neither have I, thank God. But a lot of New Yorkers have, and a lot of people in Chicago have. You have seen the crime rates, right? I mean, in Chicago alone. You want to talk about Chicago? 52 people shot this weekend alone. Last weekend, 26. 7 people killed. That's a pool of blood. That's 52 pools of blood. Maybe you didn't step in it, but I tell you, the crime rates and statistics are facts. Why are you saying that you haven't? I
also want to say this. So it was okay when the YNs were yelling Chirac. And that was to draw a comparison between Iraq, war-torn Iraq, and Chicago. So it was okay when they were acknowledging that the crime is so bad that it's basically a war zone. But when Donald Trump and the federal government and the rest of the people that can see is going on acknowledge the crime rate is out of control, all of a sudden, Chirac is non-existent. Oh, okay.
I think that's irresponsible.
Wow, it's crazy because I bet out of the 52 of those people that died, majority, if not all, are probably black youth. And we got a black guy on TV denying the crime. Chicago has been the murder capital of the U.S. for 13 years straight.
Come on,
and you got black people on TV denying crime. What the hell is wrong with y'all?
Yeah, so we got liberals outside of Chicago saying Donald Trump does not need to bring the National Guard to Chicago right now. I saw a couple pictures of, this 25-year-old young lady died in Chicago.
I see this all the time. Even before Donald Trump was bringing national attention to this, I would always see stories of young people getting unalived in Chicago. It's crazy.
Again, wow. Damn, life cut short.
Y'all just look at it's some crazy
Wrigley
stuff.
Field at the baseball field.
Bro, it was going crazy in Chicago this weekend.
Whoa.
It's been going crazy.
There appear to have been some kind of large gathering overnight. Chicago police confirming that 5 people were shot near 36th Street and Cottage Grove. Officers responded to the area around 1 o'clock this morning, I should say. Police say while they were on scene, officers heard gunshots and moved to the area of gunfire. That's where officers, they say they found multiple victims. And
this is one function, guys. Just want to let y'all know. This is one party.
And moved to the area of gunfire. That's where officers, they say they found multiple victims, and several ambulances and paramedics were called to help those who were shot. The victims' ages range from 17 to 36 years old, and we're told the 17-year-old is in critical condition. Citizen app video from the scene shows a large police presence near Ellis Park as Chicago police investigated. Police say that there were 4 guns that were found in the area, and a person of interest was also taken in.
Illegal guns. You know, they have all these ghost guns. And again, I don't know why we're playing dumb. I met so many people that moved to Dallas from Chicago. And like they would, oh, I'm from Chicago. Y'all know that's a thing with Chicago people. I'm from the south side of Chicago. Okay, so it's okay for y'all to acknowledge that you come from a very rough place and a crime-ridden place, but now all of a sudden, oh my gosh, they're just using this as an excuse to police Black communities. Well, we need to be policing our own communities. Well, why can't you? Here's the thing. Why can't you? When Black people try to police their own communities, y'all know what y'all call them? Snitches. When Black people try to speak up about crime, say something about crime, prevent crime from happening, monitor the neighborhood, monitor the environment. I can't even imagine a Black person trying to do a citizen's arrest in Chicago. They would probably get murdered. Like, let's be for real here. Let's be for real. The Blacks in Chicago refuse to trouble the gangs as a whole. They barely want to acknowledge the migrants. Well, look, I can pull up some meetings now. They were going in on Brandon Johnson. Y'all remember when that Black lady was in the city council meeting in Chicago and she was like, Tom Homan, come get this N-word first. She was a Black woman and she was like telling Tom Homan to come get the mayor. She was not playing. But they had been like for at least, I had been seeing city council meetings from like at least 2 or 3 years ago where it wasn't just Black people, it was even like the legal immigrant population was like, y'all need to do something about this. Okay. Chicago mentality is a lot like North Korea. If you're good, don't worry about nothing else. No, but I saw them in city council, they were cutting up. What's up, caramel coated cutie? Waiting for the National Guards to come to NYC. Now, I thought that, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't y'all have the National Guard in the subway system right now? I thought I saw that somewhere. Because they're over there cutting up in New York. That's why New York, even though Donald Trump lost in New York, a lot of New York went redder than what it's been in a very long time.
And for questioning.
I want y'all to know something. Illinois has strict gun control laws. You need licenses. That's not stopping these heathens, these criminals from having guns.
This is the point I'm trying to make, Jamal. Black policing their own neighborhoods is different than working with the police. My point I'm trying to make is Black people cannot be trusted to police their own neighborhoods. Can you trust somebody to police crime who won't even acknowledge that crime is happening? Let's even take it down to the Black family unit. I'm going to bring this back to the women because I feel like the women are a big part of the problem. You had in families their version of fixing situations when they found out that children were being touched by grown people was to pretend it doesn't even happen. So if on a familial level, you cannot be trusted to police your own situation, why should I trust you to police a community when it seems like it's your natural instinct to protect predators? That was a point that I was making when I was saying Black people get talked about and targeted for snitching when they are trying to keep the community safe. We don't have a culture that promotes isolating, targeting, and excommunicating criminality from our culture. We have a culture that glorifies, shields, coddles, and protects criminality. So when you're already operating from that mindset, you absolutely cannot be trusted to police your own community. Because what's going to happen is the criminals are going to run amok. Point blank, period. And everybody who can benefit from that is going to be quiet about it. They were only in the train stations, not outside where we also need them. Yeah, I mean, I was reading about how y'all are now having moto crimes. For those of y'all who don't know what that is, let's say you're walking down the street and you have your cell phone. Now you have to worry about somebody snatching your cell phone on a motorcycle or snatching your bag off of you and getting away on a motorcycle. And that is a crime that is very common in Latin America, in particular South America, especially in places like Colombia, where there's having a motorcycle is normal. More people have motorcycles than they actually have cars in Colombia. And so this is like a South American crime where people just who are criminals will just snatch things off of people on motorcycles. And like when I heard that this was happening in New York, I was like, what the hell? What's going on over there? We need to bring back the Panthers. I'm trying to find the real way to deal with this before jumping on your. There's not. Because again, you can't trust people. You can't trust people to do the right thing. So what? Okay, let's say you have a Black Panthers or people walking around with guns. There's a difference between people walking around saying we're willing to defend our community against an other. You know, we're willing to defend our community against white people who probably don't even want to come to your community, right? In 2025, they trying to stay the hell away from our community versus you literally having to do the work of policing your own. And again, I'm not just talking about violent crimes. What happens when you have to report crimes of violence against women and children and those kind of things that can be easily covered up? What happens when you have to report those? Because from what I saw from the P. Diddy trial and how I see the way that we respond, there was a video on the Shade Room and On Site where this young boy, and it was on camera, where this young boy came up on this white lady's porch, this old white lady's porch, and he was like patting and rubbing and grabbing her butt, and she was telling him to go on. It's a Black young boy and a white lady. I go under the comments and immediately the vast majority of people, no, I need to know what happened. She must have liked it. She must have told him to do. This woman is like well over 60 years old, grabbing the rail. She told him to go on. The woman said she was scared, and luckily finally he stopped and went on. And the immediate reaction is to jump to the defense. I could even understand people saying, okay, I'm just not going to say anything. I'm going to let the details come out. But what I'm seeing on this camera is crazy. It immediately went to trying to blame the elderly woman for this 14-year-old coming on her porch and essaying her. This is the mentality that we have in our community. So how can we self-police? It's not possible. It's not possible. We're going to have one of the most crime-ridden communities and things being swept up under the rug. No, I will take the white man policing our community every day. I'm going to take the white man's law every single day before I have to deal with the public opinion of Black folk. Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. I wish the hell I would. No, I ain't doing it. That is correct, Mariah. The illegals are snatching phones while on motorized scooters. Wow. Much of our community is very sick and divided. Yeah, so until you fix that, like what Pastor, what was his name? Was that Pastor Manning? Y'all know the pastor who was like, it's a God problem. You know, that until you fix the minds and the heart of the people, we cannot be, I'm sorry. And it's not all of us. But the problem is the ones of us who have good sense, like the Cartier family, and the ones who try to speak up against the crime and try to do the right things, we're excommunicated and labeled as coons and labeled as self-hating anti-Blacks. So it's like, unless you love crime and love protecting those who do crimes, you're not even considered a Black person. It's just the fact of the matter.
Teenagers are dying, being killed. We have a huge issue in America. Like, did y'all know that it was like 28% of Gen Z Americans were aborted? I want to know how much percent of people have died from violence.
You know what's
of teenagers.
You know what's the main killer for 30 and under?
And black people?
Yeah,
Isn't it? It's murder, isn't it?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's our number one
Hey, bro,
cause of death.
People, not just in Chicago.
That is crazy.
In the hood, period. Say, if you make it to.
Now, that same stat doesn't bear out for all white men. Because here's the thing. Y'all try to make it seem like, oh, well, what, people unalive who they're nearest to, which, like, on its face, that makes sense. But unaliving by another man is not the number one cause of white men in the same age group as black men. Do y'all understand? It's not the same thing. This is not happening at the rates that it's happening in the black community, in other races and groups of people that live around each other. It's just not.
20, you an OG.
That's insane. You know what's crazy? I got a frat brother from Chicago, actually my anchor on my line. He is actually a police officer in Chicago. He is in law enforcement. He is out there trying to stop this. He lives in a black community. I remember when we got to college, he said, where I'm from in Chicago, we don't fraternize with the white people. It's just us. And it's violent. I remember he used to be like, why are you always hanging out with them white people? I said, what you mean? The same as hanging out with you. He said, no, you like them more than us. All right, brother, calm
Every
down.
time.
He's from Chicago. That's how they act. So it's like,
Racist. Okay, here's the thing. Racism is going to be our downfall. And a lot of black people like to say, we can't be racist because we're black and we don't have any power. I've explained to y'all the difference between discrimination, prejudice, and racism before. I'll do it again. Racism is a deep, visceral hate against another group of people. It is a feeling. It is a sentiment. Prejudice, you could be prejudiced and not necessarily dislike another group of people. You might just have a misconception about them that's not rooted in hate or anger. A lot of us have misconceptions about people or misconceptions because we don't have all the information. That doesn't necessarily mean that you hate another group of people. Discrimination is when you get to practice racism, right? Discrimination is when you have the power to give somebody or not give somebody the opportunity based on their race, gender, what they look like. So what a lot of black people mean to say is that you are in no position to discriminate. That's what you're trying to say. That doesn't make you any less racist. It doesn't make you any less hateful than anybody else who dislikes somebody and judges somebody solely because of their skin color. So y'all like to complain about there's no investment in the community, no progress, people view us a certain way. But whenever black people try to cross those color lines and actually integrate, when black people decide, I want to be an American and I want to fully integrate into society and I want to have social, not antisocial behaviors, then the conversation always goes to, you hate your own people, you don't like us. It's just so insecure. It's so insecure. It's all based in insecurity.
If y'all know that they don't even go into the white communities and the crime is bleeding into their communities and it's affecting our communities at the highest rate, how can y'all get on TV and be against this? How? Where's BLM? Do Black Lives really matter?
Hey, there are protests right now. As we're speaking, they're having a protest in Chicago to not let Donald Trump bring the National Guard in. You know who's front and center?
No federal troops in the city of Chicago. No militarized force in the city of Chicago.
35 people got shot, Brandon.
We're going to defend.
I want them to investigate him so bad. Because with the amount of illegal immigration that he allowed into the city that wasn't to the benefits of his constituency, you cannot tell me that this man is not compromised. Anytime somebody is trying to do something right that's going to benefit his people, he goes against the grain, even when he's getting called out by his own community. Because yes, they have been going to these city council meetings and calling him out, contrary to what's been shown here. Plenty of black people have spoken out against this mayor. Yet he continues to engage in behaviors and promote policies that are contrary to the progression of his own people. So I want to know, who is paying you, sir? You cannot convince me that he is not involved at some level of corruption. And Cash Patel, Pam Bondi, all of y'all, please get on your job and investigate this man.
Our democracy in the city of Chicago. We're going to protect the humanity of every single person in the city of Chicago.
It's just crazy.
Bro.
This is the same guy saying we don't have resources. You spend billions of dollars and raise people's taxes for illegal immigrants. Maybe if you would have complied and spent that same money on crime reform and keeping people safe, we wouldn't be seeing all these murders.
Hello.
Well,
We wouldn't be.
said they need investments.
They over here fighting more for illegal immigrants in their city to be safe than they are for the tax-paying people that put them in position to be there and keeping them safe. And the lives, the black people that he swears so friendly and so great in his city, you're not caring about their lives. Their children are dying at the highest rate in the entire nation in one of the biggest and greatest cities in America. And y'all deny this. There's literal video evidence of youth toting guns, talking about we want to murder.
I got
murder.
I got a
What
question.
the hell?
I got a real question. Y'all really think the police gonna like fix this?
No. But I think
the National Guard will.
I think
You think the National Guard gonna fix it? I feel like they still gonna do it with the National Guard right there.
Hold on.
I truly
What happened in DC? DC had a higher crime rate than Chicago.
No,
but DC's more
per capita.
But look, DC more dense. It's Chicago. It's a little bit more room. They got a little. I feel like they still gonna probably find a way.
I think that is highly likely. I think that's highly likely they'll still commit crimes. But with the amped up police presence, with the federal troops behind them, I think that we can see a better force to combat this crime that we see. But they're trying to stop that. They're trying to say that this crime isn't a problem. There is too much crime in America, and there's too many Democrats that downplay the crime. Oh, the rates are down. Okay, but it's still happening.
You know what I want to say too? And again, I'll go back. You know, I have to be honest. Y'all know I tell you all the time, I used to be a raging liberal, progressive, socialist, whatever you want to call it. I was lefter than left, right? Because everything was based off of ideology, things that I had read in books. And I was young, naive, and mature, and I didn't understand the world. I didn't understand how people worked. And as I had my own daughter, as I was at one point, I don't want to say I was immersed in the underworld, but I was in it enough to where I could see how people operated at the lowest base level of society. I saw enough to where I truly began to understand human nature and how people operate in practice and not in theory. Right. So I remember during the time with the Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown situation, I was like, abolish the police and just have mental health care workers out. But like, I want y'all to go to some of these countries where they can't rely on police. Right. And you tell me if that is the type of society that you would like to live in. Right. Or if you want to have that type of stress, worry, and anxiety on you. Now, here's the thing. In Colombia, things have changed. They have improved drastically. I live in a suburb in Colombia. Now, part of the reason why that area is safe that I live in Colombia is because a lot of narco traffickers' family is from that. For example, Pablo Escobar's family grew up in that area. And he's not the only narco trafficker who has family in that area. So what does that mean for the area that I live in? Well, it actually means that it's very well funded and protected. So we don't deal with the same type of crime that somebody who lives in another part of the city would deal with, right? Because people don't want to come over there. You don't want to commit crimes against the wrong person or the wrong family and get caught up, right? But with that said, in Colombia, there is a saying, no dar papaya. What does that mean? Basically, don't give criminals a reason. See, in the United States, when somebody does something wrong, or if somebody robs you, or somebody takes your cell phone, or somebody steals your car, or something happens, we, for the most part, in some situations we don't victim blame. We're like, get the criminals. We blame the bad guys. The only time that seems to kind of be in the reverse is if we're talking about SA. But for anything else, we blame the bad guys. In Colombia, if somebody steals your phone or your purse, it's always your fault. You must have gave them a reason. Oh, you were walking with your phone in your hand? You gave papaya. You gave them a reason. That's why you got your phone taken. Why are the people like this there? Because for a very long time, they knew that the police were not there to protect them. There wasn't enough police force. So you have to learn how to protect yourself. And what happens when you live in a society like that? It becomes a very low trust society where you're always on edge and you're always thinking that somebody is going to either steal from you or harm from you. And that sounds great until you have to walk around with that kind of stress. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Because now you are 1000% responsible for your own safety and protection at all times. And there's nobody that you can call that is going to do anything to help you or even resolve the situation. Okay, guys, y'all hit the like button, please.
At a high rate. The rate is down from 100%. What?
Listen to some of these Democrat politicians and government leaders. They try to tell you that crime is not surging in their localities. But if you look at Oakland, California is rated number 2, the most dangerous place in the United States. Boston, Massachusetts has seen a 67% increase in homicides for, year to date from last year to this year. In Chicago, a 78% increase in motor vehicle theft from 2021 to 2025.
Number 2 most dangerous city, Oakland, California, bankrupt and poverty-stricken Democrat leadership. Boston, Massachusetts, 70% increase in murder in the most moved from state in America. Democrat leadership.
I would argue that a lot of these major Democrat-run cities are crime-ridden. And like when you point that out to Democrats, that like in your counties or your cities, like y'all blame the Republicans for all your problems, but in counties and cities where you have a majority Democrat leadership, that is where people of color are doing the worst. They just act like they don't hear anything. It's just they immediately revert back to trying to find some way to blame Republicans and conservatives. There's absolutely no accountability at all. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears here. I want to show this video to y'all of a Chicago City Council meeting. This is on DC Shorts. So this video is entitled, "Watch, Woman Calls Chicago Mayor a N-word."
I missed you. I'm sorry. I can't do this.
You all sit up there and said you were.
Okay, so she's talking to, this is a Chicago resident, and she's talking to Mayor Brandon Johnson. This is a clip I was referring to earlier.
Not allow Trump to come in here and get these illegals. Yeah, you can smile. We're in $1 billion deficit, and you spent half of our money, half of that on illegals. You campaign and double down that you.
If you're in a deficit, how do you have money to spend on people who like legally are not even your constituents? That makes absolutely no sense. And again, when people want to say this is an issue of racism, yeah, I'm sure there are some racists in the mix. But like at the end of the day, this is a matter of basic economics here. So this is a Black woman, and there were multiple Black people who came to these city council meetings, as well as Asian people, as well as Hispanic people, who were saying the same thing that this lady's saying.
Not raise property taxes.
I won't raise your property taxes.
You wanted to raise our taxes $300 million. They shut it down. Now we back here for $150 million. Okay. See, this is what we asking now. Since you want to crash out, some of y'all say y'all willing to go to jail for it. Trump, Tom Homan, Make an example out this Negro right here first. Please come here first, because you know what? We're going to help you. We want to forensic.
Ma'am, I would
audit.
ask that you,
We want to
keep your,
forensic.
hold on a second. Stop her time. Stop her time. Just a second. Just a second. Stop her time. Ma'am, I would ask that
Now
you.
they cut off their mic. Now she's over here bringing up real problems, and he's more concerned about the fact that she called him the N-word, not like the hard ER, but the other one. I don't know if I can say it. He's more concerned about that than the concerns that she's bringing. And I understand her delivery is not the best, but like, let's be clear. This was 8 months ago. I can go back and pull up meetings of people saying the same thing from 2 years prior. So this isn't the first time he's heard it. These people are tired. It's like it's falling on deaf ears at this point. So like, you can't really ask people to continue to be polite when they've been saying the same thing for years at that point, and you seem to just not care. And at this point, it's like they're just coming to the meeting just so they can have it on the record. We did say something, but this man does not care.
If you want to continue speaking, you have to make sure that your language is appropriate. Okay. All right.
Alex,
Okay. You can begin her time again.
you're going to spend our tax dollars to go, Michael Rodriguez, you said to take Trump to court to protect these illegals. That's cool, because we about to make.
Not you spending tax dollars to go to court with the president for illegal immigration. Legal. Legal. And this is what I'm saying. The American citizens are always getting the raw end of the deal. You have a mayor, you have the government of an American city taking taxpayer dollars, taking the federal government to court and behind people that aren't even supposed to be in their city. So you're stealing from the people that are your constituents that are legally there to go to court and behind people who aren't supposed to be in your city. And you expect somebody to speak to you kindly? That is absolutely ridiculous.
All of y'all, all of them is famous. Y'all think this is how it's gonna ride? I think not. Flip Chicago red. We not playing.
I know that's right.
This was going to happen to you. You got Cash Patel and Pam Bundy that you're going to have to deal with sooner than later.
I think before it's all said and done, he's going to jail.
Then it's going to be an audit. Next, it's going to be an investigation.
I know that's right.
Then it's going to be an indictment.
Mm-hmm. I know that's
Conviction. That's what's going to happen to you.
Mr. Brandon Johnson, I'm up here. I am speaking right now, so I would love your undivided attention, please. I'll wait. So this just proves to you the lack of leadership that you show in this city. You can't even give me straight eye contact. Now, I'm going to let you know now, the people of Chicago, we're done with you. It is insane how we have been voting Democrat for over 60 plus years, and we've never seen a change from people like you, Lori Lightfoot, Robbie Manuel. It is insane. Chicago was 37% red. In 2020, it was only 15%. So we're waking up. So you can pretend that this isn't happening, but I know for a fact that you will not have that seat the next election.
You're so strong about protecting those aliens, but you won't do nothing for the U.S. citizens.
I know that's right.
I got a great way how we can what we can do with this budget. First, let's start with cutting off illegals, getting free everything. Free housing, free schooling, free food. Yeah, let's start with that.
Because I told y'all before, me as an American citizen that goes to travels legally, I can't get any type of assistance. I have to pay my way in everything, whether that be education, food, housing. Nothing is giving. There's no program I can apply for. And I'm saying truly around the world, people genuinely don't believe that Americans are poor or struggle. They think that we're all rich and we got it. So like if you are an American citizen and you go to another country and you go broke, people are like, y'all know the same way that y'all feel like, not y'all, but a lot of people feel like there's no reason for a white American to ever fall on hard times. When you leave the United States, that's how people feel about you, regardless of your color. The empathy in terms of your economic situation, it's not there. It's non-existent. Matter of fact, a lot of them feel like you should have something to contribute to them. Okay. I'm just being honest.
Save us a lot of money. What, 600 million? Let's start there. Then let's start with your salary. You are going down in history as the worst mayor in America. Let's start with cutting yours. You making too much money. Let's start there. You Democrats, and you remember you told us to defund the police. Remember you ran on that. Remember you was to defund the police. Let's start with that. Let's defund the police detail that you have. And let's put the police back in our neighborhood because we're not for defunding the police.
Amen.
Why don't you just practice what you preach?
See it. I love it. I love it when I see Black people like this speaking up. And that's not to say that one type of Black person is more Black than another person. I think it kind of just debunks this notion that all of the Black people who are conservatives and are pro safety, pro against illegal immigration, that are conservative, I think people have a view of what that is supposed to look like. So when they hear a Black person who is conservative, people automatically think this is a Black person who doesn't like themselves, who doesn't like to be around other Black people, who maybe didn't grow up immersed in what's typical Black American culture, right? And when I see Black people like this, all of these Black people here, you can clearly tell that they grew up in Black neighborhoods, they grew up in the culture, that they have strong cultural ties, and they have come to the same conclusion as other Black people who might not even be a part of the, like, immersed in the community, that no, something is very wrong here and we need to do something about it. So I love to see these kind of Black people speaking up, because again, now you have people who are immersed in it, people who have the information, who have the cultural competency. We're always talking about cultural competency. These are people who have the cultural competency, understanding, and experience to speak on these matters. And even they are coming to the same conclusions as a lot of conservatives. So I love to see this. She's not a whitewashed conservative. Yeah, and I would argue, I do meet some conservatives who are Black, who did not necessarily grow up in Black culture. So I'm not going to act like that doesn't exist. But I would say the majority of the Black conservatives that I know very much grew up in Black culture. That would be the majority that I know.
All the details. We saw you coming in today. You had all the police presence. So let's take some of that away.
Yeah, I love to see it. America's changing. America is changing. And I love this time in history. I feel like this is the situation where we are going to come out better and we're going to come out stronger. I think this point in time will do more for, racial relations and us coming together than any previous time in history. I think we're going to get back to a time. I remember I was watching Love and Basketball the other day. For those of y'all who have never seen it, it is a movie. Who wrote Love and Basketball, y'all? It was such a good movie. And it's like a Black love story about two kids who fell in love and they played basketball, and they had this emotional drama, but it was pretty much all Black cast, and like there was nothing in there about social justice. There was nothing in there about Black people struggling. As a matter of fact, one of the families that they were rich because the dad was an NBA player, and the girl grew up in a middle-class family because her dad was a banker and her mom was a housewife. And it's a genuinely good story that stands the test of time. And I was like, why don't we see movies like this anymore? And if you go back to the 90s, there were so many stories like that. And I think that was during a time where I feel like race relations, whether people want to admit it or not, were better because people understood that like we have to move forward and everything doesn't have to be about trying to highlight what divides us all the time, or everything doesn't have to be about us trying to constantly segregate ourselves from each other and make an issue with every little thing. And I think we eventually will move back into an era like that. I just think this is a time of reckoning. I think this is a time of people being honest. I think this is a time of people learning to put aside surface level, what's on the outside, and really flesh out what they truly do and do not value, and what it truly is and is not beneficial. And of course, there are people who are going to try to keep us dragged down. There are going to be people who are going to want to drag us back to the past. But we have to recognize that, like, on a deeper level, those people are dealing with other insecurities. And if it wasn't race that was the issue, they would make something else the issue, right? The 2000s were the best for racial and gender relations. Okay. I mean, it was definitely better than what it is now. I'll say that. But with that said, guys, I had a great time on this live. I stayed on here longer than what I needed to, but I need to get to bed because I need to be up by 3:30 tomorrow to begin work. With that said, please, y'all hit the like button on your way out. Share my video if you care. And I will see y'all back here tomorrow. I'm going to try to come on earlier. Think like about 1 or 2 o'clock. I'll let y'all know. But y'all have a good night. See y'all.